Okay, so now the model is ready for shading. So I'm going to use two shades. I'm going to use Raclan Flesh Shade on the gold, only on the gold, and I'm going to use Newlyn Oil everywhere else. And I just find that this works better on the actual gold, so I'm going to do that one first. And because the gold is a smaller area, this is a small brush. I have no idea what size it is. It says that, whatever those words are. So I buy a lot of brushes from Games Workshop. I also buy brushes from arts and crafts stores. I find that Games Workshop brushes don't actually go fine enough for some of the detail that I want to do. And also their bristles, I find, can actually splay a bit. So for the, like, I have a couple of super fine detail brushes, like this one, which is super tiny, and this is my eyeball brush. That's the only thing it does. So I never use it for anything apart from eyeballs. Washes are a very different paint to the base paints, which is what we've been using up until this point. Washes are designed to not shades, I should say, not washes. A shade is designed to go into cracks and crevices and just darken up those areas. So it sort of gives you a cheat in that you don't actually have to put in any effort, and it will give you nice outlines on areas. With, you know, and literally all you do is what I've just done, which is just brush, shall we call it a healthy coat over the area, and it will, when it dries, it will have shaded those areas a little bit. So the Raclan Flesh Shade is really good for faces and, you know, areas of actual flesh, but I've also found that if I do a coat of this on gold areas first, they come out a bit warmer. So it actually, I think, makes them work quite well. It can also be used to make things dirty. So if you just do the Raclan Flesh Shade over everything, like over silvers, it ends up making them look quite dirty and sort of unkempt, which is also a cool effect if that's what you're going for. For things like Chaos Cultists and stuff like that, it's super cool. Okay, but the rest of the model, I am literally going to cover the entire thing in Newlyn Oil, which is a black shade. So this will work well with all the reds and will shade up all those recessed areas really nicely and give it quite a lot of definition and outline that at the moment, like if you look at the face, it's quite blended together. You can't really make out any of the good detail, and it looks like I've stuffed it up when I haven't. This is all part of my cunning plan. Okay, and so for this one I'm using a much bigger brush, which is actually called a wash brush. But it's you want to fill up the brush completely as much as you can. You don't put any water in the brush when I'm doing this. I just put wash on it, and then when I'm actually painting, I'm less worried about getting more paint from the pot and making sure that the wash that I have put on is not over pooling, because if you do it too much in one space, then it can completely remove all colour, and you don't want to do that. You still want the colour underneath to be shining through, but you just want to have a nice shadowing effect. So we can see here quite clearly, right, that back of the what would you call that, is the back of his carapace, the back of his armour? Back of his armour. Let's go with back of his armour. has got, you know, suddenly has this black outline that, you know, I didn't have to draw by hand or anything like that. I'm just cheating. And so yeah, it's this is what I call painting with cheating, and it makes it so easy. And I really wish someone had shown me this when I started painting, because you know, you can feel like an absolute idiot trying to paint these lines into these little recessed areas and just stuffing it up completely, and no one even told me that there's a paint that does it for you. So yeah, I thought I'd pass on the knowledge that I have learned over many years of painting, and hence this video. Well, potentially series of videos. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more of these, but I might. So we're getting quite a lot of definition coming through here now with this paint. So even on areas where there is no definition, I still cover with the Newland oil, because if you don't, everywhere, if you haven't put it everywhere, it will look odd in some places where it's a lighter shade. So even if you have no direct detail, it's still a good thing to do. Okay, so now let's hope this is dramatic as I want it to be. I'm going to do the face. And all of a sudden, our Terminator has a face that looks nice and threatening, which is what Terminator should do. Now, I'm going to go over the areas on the gold as well. I let the brown dry enough, and so now, the flesh shade I should say, so now I'm going over with the black to add in more outlines. But the brown and the black will work together and give us a nice effect on that eagle chest place thing. I know it has a proper name, I just don't know what it is, because I don't normally paint Blood Angels. I know this is Heresy, but I normally play Chaos. But I had this model spare, and so I thought I'd do him up for you guys. Okay, so now all we've really got left is the gun. Just fill in all these nice little nooks and crannies. You want to make sure it gets into everywhere, because sometimes the paint will get an air bubble in it, which will actually stop it going in, which is what's happening with that the flash nozzle part at the end of the gun just then. Okay, so this area has a bit too much, so I'll just use the brush itself as a sponge to soak up some of the areas. And that's pretty much it. Probably still got a bit too much on here, so I might put some back in the pot. So most paints you can't put it back in the pot once you've used it, but with shades you can. Just suck it back up with your brush, and then just to show you my technique, it's totally amazing. Just like you're squeezing out a mop. Squeeze on the sides of the bucket and you'll see that it's running down the side in there. Okay, we'll just soak up a bit more here. That's looking good. Okay, and now we just leave him to dry. So because this is a much more liquidy paint, it will take considerably longer to dry, but it is well worth it before you start going on to the next layer, because You don't want this paint to mix with the other paints because it will water it down immediately. And so just wait until he's fully dry, maybe even give him like 30 minutes to make sure that all the stuff that's in pools has completely dried up. But yeah, you see, I would actually consider him now to almost be battle ready. You know, you could actually put him on the field and no one would complain at you that you hadn't tried to do some painting. You know, that's perfectly acceptable in my book. The next stage, which is the highlighting, does take a lot longer and is much more detailed. But at this point, that guy is playable. What I'd probably do is I'd probably paint the base, but that's the last step I normally get to, because as you can see on the, well, hopefully you can see on the base, I've like got streaks of red paint and stuff like that coming onto the base. So until I'm 100% done with the model, I don't want to touch the base because I'm going to go over all those incorrections and fix them all up later. Okay, yeah. Stage 2 complete.